So you hear about a top AI director from Meta's legendary FAIR lab getting laid off, and you'd think he'd be pretty upset, right? But what if? What if it's the exact opposite? What if this moment gives us one of the clearest, most unfiltered looks at the future of AI we've ever gotten? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into. All right, so here's the setup. Not too long ago, Meta made a huge move that, honestly, sent some real shockwaves through the AI world. They restructured their whole core research division, and hundreds of people were laid off. And one of those people was Tianyu Tan, a really respected research director at FAIR. But here's the thing that gets really interesting. His reaction? It wasn't what anyone expected. He wasn't surprised or angry. He was just, well, really calm about it. Turns out he'd already been thinking about a change, and the layoff just kind of sped things up. This is what makes his perspective so valuable. It's this rare, completely honest look from someone at the very peak of the AI field. And his first big point is this fascinating paradox about who's really at risk in the age of AI. And trust me, it's probably not who you think. Okay, so who gets automated first? We hear all the time about writers or artists or customer service jobs, but Tianyu Tan, he has a much different and frankly more immediate answer. Yeah, you heard that right. He argues that, kind of counterintuitively, the first big wave of automation is happening inside the AI industry itself. The tools they're building are getting so good that they're making the whole process of creating AI way more efficient, which means a lot of those classic engineering jobs might not be needed anymore. And this just lays it out perfectly. I mean, think about it. In the past, you needed these huge teams just for the grunt work of training and debugging models. Now, so much of that is automated. Tian's point is that this middle layer, the engineers who are just focused on executing tasks, is going to shrink. The future isn't about giant teams. It's about small, super strategic groups focused on the really hard research and the most unique ideas. So this trend of automation inside the industry, well, it leads him to ask a much, much bigger question. It's a fundamental challenge to the entire direction that AI is heading in right now. He's asking a pretty provocative question here. It's not that LLMs aren't cool or interesting, they obviously are, but are they the right path? The whole world is obsessed with just making these models bigger and bigger, the tech behind things like ChatGPT. But he points to this massive fundamental flaw that we really can't keep ignoring. And here it is. The core problem is just how ridiculously inefficient these models are with data. They are absolute data monsters, just gobbling up literally everything on the internet to learn what they know. But when you compare them to how a human learns, it's not even close. The scale of this inefficiency is just wow. Tan points out that there's about 1,000 times difference between the data an LLM needs and what a human child is exposed to. And yet, kids develop this deep, creative understanding of the world. That huge gap kind of suggests we might be missing the point. And that brings us to this really powerful quote. The scaling law is basically this idea that if you just throw more data and more computer power at a model, it'll get better. Tian calls that a pessimistic future. Why? Because it means we're stuck on this treadmill of using more and more and more resources for smaller and smaller gains. It's a brute force approach, not a smart one. So if just passively scarfing down data isn't the best way, what's the alternative? This is where we get to his big idea, a more active, more efficient way for AI to actually learn. He's a huge champion of something called reinforcement learning, or RL. Think of it this way. Instead of just reading every book in the library, an RL agent learns by trying stuff, failing, and getting feedback. It learns by doing. It's actively experimenting and creating its own high-quality knowledge. I love this analogy he uses because it just clicks. Current LLMs learn like someone just passively sitting through a lecture, memorizing facts. RL, on the other hand, learns like someone trying to solve a puzzle. And that active process, he argues, is how you go from just spitting back patterns to actually developing real reasoning skills. Okay, so what does this all mean for the actual people in the AI field? For the students and the researchers trying to figure out what to do next? Well, his advice is, once again, refreshingly different. He basically says, stop chasing the hype. The industry changes so ridiculously fast that by the time you become an expert in today's hot new thing, everyone will have moved on. His advice? Follow your own real, genuine curiosity, because that's where the actual breakthroughs happen. That's how you build a career that lasts. And this is the quality he thinks is absolutely irreplaceable. It's not about how many facts you know, it's about having taste. It's that gut feeling for what problems are actually important and the creativity to come up with a totally new way to tackle them. This human insight, that's something the models just don't have. And because of that, he doesn't think the future of AI is going to be decided in these giant corporate research labs. He actually uses the term guerrilla warfare. He predicts the next massive breakthroughs will come from small, nimble, passionate teams who are off chasing their own vision, far away from the big company roadmap. And so that's the question we're left with. As we build these incredible machines that can process basically all of human knowledge, Tianyu Tan's perspective forces us to ask what really moves the needle. Is it just about more data, more power, scaling up what we're already doing? Or is it something more? That unique, irreplaceable, and deeply human quality of taste. His bet is clearly on the latter.